Welcome back to America Tonight. Lots of reaction to this, both through the email, people calling us, talking about Obama and executive actions and guns and background checks and what that ultimately means. Joining us now is Michele Byington. She's been on with us before to talk about that and the U.S. Law Shield, which is interesting because of what a resource that has been for perspectives on anything related to guns, but certainly on these executive actions. Michele, Happy New Year. Welcome to the show.
Happy New Year to you. Thank you.
So here's the first thing. Your reaction to the specifics of what we know anyway, of what the president wants to do as far as background checks are concerned.
My reaction to watching that news conference yesterday was this was just one big anti-gun pep rally. With this executive action, what a lot of people don't realize is the executive order is the lowest form of law that the federal government or that the president can do. Cannot use an executive order to unilaterally change the federal firearms regulations, which is what a lot of people don't realize. He's going to have to convince Congress to change that. This executive order really is almost symbolic, if you ask me, and it was just one giant pep rally yesterday.
You know, so it's interesting because is the idea, and of course this is mixing politics with a huge issue, is the idea is just to rouse people up and make them believe that, listen, all these horrible things that have happened, some of them involving guns, that's the problem. If we could just stop with the guns, we would have a fabulous, much more safe and secure nation.
Right. So I think yesterday was a first step in a long journey in firearms confiscation. I think he wants us to be like Australia, and he wants us to be like the United Kingdom when it comes to firearms. He wants to disarm Americans, and this was just step number one. And you're exactly right. He's pinpointing guns. He's demonizing guns when we all know that a crime can be committed with a knife or any sort of home utensil. I mean, for instance, the Boston Marathon bombers went to Granny's house and grabbed her pressure cooker to go wreak havoc on Boston. So he really is using guns to further his agenda. His agenda is not, it doesn't seem to be crime prevention, because if that were the case, we'd be all for it. And if he really wanted to prevent crime, it would make more sense to arm your law-abiding citizens as opposed to disarming them, because we all know criminals don't fall. If a criminal wants to go get his hands on a gun, they're going to do it.
Yeah, I agree with that. If they want to get their hands on a gun, they're going to do it for sure. So then what do you think is going to be the challenge? I think there's going to be a lot of legal challenges to anything that's thrown out there.
Absolutely. You're exactly right on that one. So he's going to use this executive order as step one. And then he is going to attempt to, I guess, get Congress to enact some stricter gun laws by working with the definition of what constitutes a firearms dealer and what engaging in business means. And there's going to be a lot of pushback by the American people on this, because when you tell the American people that you can't have something, what do you think Americans are going to do? Oh, yeah, I can have it. I'm going to have it. So there's going to be a lot of pushback, and for sure.
Yeah, I agree. There's going to be legal challenges, etc. And plus, here's the thing, and you guys talk about it, gun laws are all over the map. They're constantly changing, right?
Oh, absolutely. Every time there's a legislative session in any given state, gun laws change. I mean, I'm here in Texas, and you think Texas is just, got these very liberal gun laws. In fact, we really don't. And even this past summer, our gun laws changed again.
Right, and it's keeping up with that. I think a lot of times, too, even gun owners, they have to keep up with what's going on because, because you've defended so many people that have found themselves in a quandary or quagmire, if you want to use that word, when they're stuck not knowing what the specific law is. I mean, I lived in Vegas, Michele, and one of the things, I had a kick door robber, and the policemen who came to help me were great. And luckily, because I yelled and had gotten to the door at the right time, I just got like a bump on the head. But that was it. I scared him off. but they were advising me, hey, you're at the time a single woman, you should get a gun. But here's the thing, then you need a clean gun, because depending on if you shoot somebody where they are, they need to be armed. You need to make sure they're armed. I'm like, what? So I have to have a gun that I plant on a body because I got to make sure I don't get screwed up by the laws. And basically that's what the officer was telling me. He was trying to protect me and say, you should do this, but just be aware this is the other part of that equation. So
education is key. If you are a gun owner, you have got to be educated, which is why U.S. Law Shield puts on gun law seminars all across the country. And if anybody's interested, I would really encourage them to go to gunlawseminar.com, because education is key. You need to know your rights. You need to know what you can and can't do when it comes to a firearm. And at the end of the day, that's how we're going to save our second educated population.
Mm-hmm. By knowing more about what it actually means. What do you make of this last part of the? And because of course it's tragic when someone who's seriously ravaged by mental illness does something with a gun. But how can you police that? Because what if somebody goes through a terrible loss and they take Zoloft for a few months? Does that mean that they can't get a gun? I think that's going to be a very difficult thing to try to regulate. Frankly, what do you think?
Absolutely. I don't know how they're going to enforce this, if it's even going to be possible, because of HIPAA laws. There are privacy laws in this nation when it comes to doctor-patient privilege. Yeah. And it is frightening if you think that perhaps you have an issue and you just want to go talk it out. That may stifle treatment because you are afraid to go in and talk to a doctor, because potentially your file could be rummaged through by some government agent with an agenda. So, again, I don't know how they're going to enforce this. I'm with you on that. And they're going to be violating federal HIPAA laws when it comes to trying to figure out mental illnesses and who's got what. It's just opening up a whole bag of worms that does not need to be opened.
Yeah, I agree with you. Michele Byington, thanks so much, as always, for lending us some insights into what's going on. U.S. Law Shield, check it out, uslawshield.com. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so it's interesting. She makes a great point, and this is what I say all the time. If you listen to my show, or if you're just listening for the first time, I say responsible gun owners. You hear me say, I'm for responsible gun ownership. And what Michele just said there, that is the key. Wherever you get the information, you know what it's like. It's like I'm a person who doesn't like to read a million directions. But if I'm a gun owner, it's on me to know what the laws are so that I correctly know what my rights are and I responsibly own this gun. I mean, that's a key thing for me. If I'm pushing something, I'm pushing you absolutely should be able to own a gun in this country, but please be a responsible gun owner for yourself. The worst thing that could ever happen is you have a gun, you take care of it, then you lose interest because you think everything's good. I'm using this for protection. Yeah, I haven't been to the range in a long time. I haven't cleaned my gun, but it's okay. And then you have the terrible break-in scenario like I had actually in Vegas. True story. And you can't, you're stunned. You can't do it. You can't get to the gun. Or you try to get to the gun, but the person gets to the gun and uses it on you, which how many of those scenarios have we heard of? A handful. It's not like there's millions of people having that happen to them. But I think that's, in my conversations with so many people about guns, the responsible gun owner is the person that has the gun, uses it for recreation or defense or a combination of both. But they're definitely on top of what the laws are. My story to what happened to me in Vegas, the kick door robber didn't have a gun, of course, but I wouldn't have known if I had a gun and I reached for the gun and defended myself. Luckily, I had scared him immediately off. But if I had the gun, used the gun, I would have no idea that, oh my gosh, they can charge me with, murder. They can charge me with second-degree manslaughter or whatever it was, because maybe he didn't have a gun in his hand. He was just overwhelmingly big and had a club in his hand or whatever. And that goes to what I'm saying, again, responsible gun ownership. That's my issue. My issue is I don't think it's the idea of taking the guns, not right. That's not going to stop some of the horrific things that we see happening. Somebody wants guns, they're going to get them. The people in San Bernardino, they're going to get the guns. The kid in Connecticut had access to the guns because his mother was a legal gun owner, and it was easy enough to go down that path for him. There are exceptions to this, but not as many as you think when you really dig into, okay, where did it happen? Where'd they get the gun, etc. And then especially the third twist is the mental illness part of it. On the surface, if you said, oh, somebody who's really out of their mind, got to stop them from getting a gun. Oof, yeah, absolutely, I agree. How do we do that? How do we know who that person is? The person who just is distraught because their family was killed in a car accident and they're taking Prozac for a month, that's not that person. So this is going to be a wild ride to watch how this all unfolds. All right, stay with us. Much more coming your way next on America Tonight.